Okay, greatness personified. We back. Today is a solo episode. It's just me. Yesterday was UFC 319. Had a bunch of good fights on here. But to be honest, the main card was sick. I know everybody want to hear about the Khamzat Chimaev and Dricus Plessis fight. Before the fight started, something weird happened. And I think one of the commentators, they said that Dricus is one of the greatest middleweight champions of all time. And I 100% disagree with that. Yes, if Dricus would have beat Khamzat and beat the next opponent, you could make that argument. The fact that they said it, and if you look at his record, he beat Sean Strickland, and to be honest, I thought he lost that fight. But it was a close fight. It wasn't an upset or a robbery or anything. But he beat Sean Strickland, took his belt. He defended his belt against Izzy. He fought Sean Strickland again and defeated him again. This time, it was in dominant fashion. So yes, Dricus was on a win streak, and yes, he was impressive and dominant. But I hate how people were saying stuff like he was one of the greatest middleweight champions of all time. Now, I'm not hating on Dricus, but I was just saying this is something that I was thinking about before the fight started. But a lot of questions got answered in this fight, especially questions about Khamzat's, his cardio, and can he keep that pace up for 5 rounds. I didn't really like the game plan, to be honest with you. It worked, but I was completely wrong. I thought Khamzat was going to win, but I didn't think he was going to win like that. I thought Khamzat was going to take a different approach and fight at a slower pace. And then when there's an opportunity for a finish, he jump on it and explode. Like maybe hurt Dricus, then take him down and choke him out, or hurt him, then submit him. But he went out there and within the first 5 seconds of the first round, he took Dricus Plessis down and pretty much controlled him. And after the first round, you can see on Dricus' face, that he was starting to get a little bit discouraged. But then again, he stayed in the fight. He never quit, because even in the 5th round, Dricus, he took Khamzat's back and he went for a finish. But before this fight, a lot of people were picking Dricus Plessis to win. But after the fight, a lot more people are jumping on the Khamzat Chimaev's bandwagon. But it's going to be very interesting, because Khamzat, he has a couple of good opponents lined up. The winner out of the Kayo and Nasruddin fight could be next. Maybe we could have Anthony Hernandez next. Maybe we could have RDR, the Ritter. But if I'm gonna be honest, I think the person who would give Khamzat the most trouble out of all those guys would probably be the Ritter, because of his ground game. If you go back and look at Khamzat's fights, the one fight he struggled the most in was against Gilbert Burns, and Khamzat wanted no part of that ground game. So I think if RDR can force Khamzat to stand up with him, he has a higher chance, just like Gilbert did. But I know RDR, his striking is kind of weird and awkward, but I just think he has a better chance than any other of these guys in the middleweight division. I have to say something else and add this to this video. I noticed that like a lot of people are coming out and saying that Khamzat Chimaev fought real boring, he fought real safe. But it's funny how people only say that when their fighter lose, because I can go throughout UFC history and look up a lot of fighters who fought a certain type of way, and they made a whole history of doing that. Even if you look at George St. Pierre had a bunch of fights to where he fought boring and he fought safe. And I'm not saying whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, because at the end of the day, wrestling is part of MMA, and we pick and choose who we allow to do that. So GSP, whenever he got a takedown, people cheered. You know what I'm saying? But then we look at other fighters, and when their favorite fighter lose, then we say, oh yeah, this fighter is boring. I don't want to watch him fight no more. He should stand and bang. Like, why would a fighter fight towards another fighter's strength? And even if that's not their weakness, even if you look at Khamzat striking, even if you feel like he actually can stand with Dricus, if his easiest path to victory is wrestling like he did, why would he not do that? And then, like, the problem I have with that is, one, we cherry pick and say it's okay for this fighter to take down his opponents and wrestle, but it's wrong when this fighter take down their opponents. When fighter A, when he used wrestling, because he's my favorite fighter, it's okay for him to wrestle. But then when fighter B, when he's beating my favorite wrestler, it's not okay for him to implement takedowns and wrestling. Another issue I have is how quick the referee was standing them up. because I've seen so many fights throughout history where you had the guy on top and he was a wrestler. He wasn't doing nothing. He was just on top laying and praying. That's what the saying lay and pray comes from, because the wrestler is on top and he's not doing nothing but pretty much killing time. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he's scoring points too, but like he's pretty much stalling. But we've seen so many fighters have a whole career of doing that. Anybody that's a Colby Covington fan, you can't say your favorite fighter is Colby, which a lot of people don't support him now. That's probably not a good example. But you supported him and he fought one way. That's all he could do. But then when Khamzat do the same thing and he takes him down, he takes down Dricus and he dominates him for 25 minutes, and that's a problem. We can't cherry pick and say it's okay when fighter A do it, but it's wrong when fighter B do it. And then we had Lerone Murphy versus Aaron Pico. For some reason, Aaron Pico was the favorite going to this fight. And he's coming from Bellator, and most of the fighters that come from Bellator, they come to the UFC, they lose their first fight. So it was interesting how Aaron Pico was the actual favorite against Lerone Murphy, who can put together a game plan and has crazy fight IQ. But Aaron Pico got overly aggressive and got countered by Lerone Murphy with a crazy spinning back elbow. So I just think Lerone Murphy is next in line for the belt. And my brother disagreed with me on this, but I think the featherweight division is one of the UFC's weaker divisions, especially compared to the lightweight division and the welterweight division. I think the featherweight division is pretty thin. Outside of people like in the top 4, outside of those guys, like I think the featherweight division is pretty bad, especially like when most of them struggle against the champion. Most of them have lost the vote. And then we had Carlos Prates versus Geoff Neal. Same thing, KO, spinning back elbow. Geoff Neal started the fight off aggressive. It looked like he had the momentum at first, and then after a couple minutes, it looked like Carlos started to gain the momentum and he started to be the aggressor. And then he was able to catch Geoff Neal with a spinning back elbow. I don't like Geoff Neal calling out these dangerous guys, because fighters are not known for that. Fighters are known for their accomplishments. Fighters are known for their win and loss record. Fighters are known for that they become champion. What do you gain from calling out these guys? Just like Kevin Lee, what do you gain from calling out these tough guys that's undefeated, that's on win streak? These guys are knockout artists. And Geoff Neal was doing what a lot of these other guys were afraid to do. For a long time in the welterweight division, these guys were afraid to fight each other. Pretty much Michael Page, he fought Jared Cannonier, and he, outside of the 3rd round where Jared was on top of him and was doing a little bit of a ground and pound, Michael Page pretty much, outside of that, Michael Page made it look easy. But Michael Page called out Carlos Prates after the fight in the post-fight conference, and Carlos Prates pretty much accepted that fight. I don't like Carlos fighting Michael Page, because if he struggled against Ian Gary, he's not going to be able to hit Michael Page at all. You know, so I think Carlos need to stay. I think Carlos need to keep fighting people that's above him. You know what I'm saying? I think Michael Venom Page need to stay in the middleweight division and keep fighting people above him, because he's undefeated in the middleweight division, which I think he beat Ian Gary. So I think he's undefeated in the UFC. But I think they both need to kind of stay in their divisions and just keep on winning fights. But it was a decent fight night, to be honest. I think the Bobby Green and Diego Ferreira fight would have probably made it way better than what it was, because that fight got scrapped due to Bobby Green being injured. But it was a good night of fights. There were other fights on the card that were good. Fighters, they look good. Tim Elliott looked amazing against Kai Asakura. Michael Alisachik looked good against Gerald Milshort. Michael training with the Fight Nerds now. He's pretty much 2-0 training with those guys. Lupita Godinez looked good against Jessica Andrade. I don't know why Jessica Andrade is still fighting, to be honest. I think fighters like that, they should be forced to retire whenever they keep losing, like back to back like that. Chase Hooper was looking decent against Alexander Hernandez, but then pretty much with 1 second left to go, Alexander was able to counter Chase Hooper and knock him out. Because Chase's defense was looking good when he wasn't throwing punches. When he was on the defense, it looked good. So Alexander was able to counter him and pretty much catch him while he was vulnerable. I don't know why Edson Barbosa was the favorite against Jacare Close. A lot of people were saying that they made money off that fight. But like I say, it was a decent fight. I think everybody was looking forward to the main event. And now we can go from here and see who's going to challenge Khamzat next.